grande satisfação que damos continuidade ao seminário. Tivemos ontem a abertura, foi coordenada pelo professor Paulo Niederli, do Programa de Pós-Graduação em Desenvolvimento Rural, do Programa de Pós-Graduação em Sociologia. E após a abertura feita por ele, nós tivemos 3 apresentações. A primeira apresentação da Alison Loconto, que é pesquisadora do INRA, cedida, trabalhando agora no projeto da FAO. Tivemos também a apresentação do Jean-François Tourin, que é do CISADE, na França, e está num projeto conosco aqui, como pesquisador visitante estrangeiro no Programa de Pós-Graduação em Desenvolvimento Rural. E tivemos a apresentação também do professor Sérgio Schneider, tanto aqui do PGDR como do Programa de Pós-Graduação na Sociologia. Tivemos também uma boa participação com questões, com debate, e encerramos a tarde de ontem com o lançamento do livro sobre cadeias curtas. Acho que foi uma tarde bastante produtiva, com boa participação de alunos de graduação, de pós-graduação, de professores, pesquisadores interessados e envolvidos com o tema. Então, a expectativa hoje, mesmo que tenhamos aqui um público já um pouco mais reduzido, a expectativa é de dar continuidade aos debates sobre um tema de grande importância e que é preparatório para a conferência que vai ser realizada posteriormente aqui, promovida pela Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul, trabalhando com o grande tema, né, da agricultura e alimentação em sociedades urbanizadas. Então, nós vamos dar continuidade, hoje contando com a participação de mais 2 pesquisadores estrangeiros, a professora Flaminia Ventura, da Universidade de Perugia, e o professor Pierluigi Miloni, também da Universidade de Perugia. A nossa ideia inicial era distribuí-los um em cada turno do nosso seminário, mas como eles chegaram ontem de viagem, cansados, preferimos poupá-los da apresentação ontem à tarde mesmo, então acabamos deixando os 2 na manhã de hoje, né? E aí vamos ter a complementação com a professora Flávia Charão, também aqui do nosso programa, que vai fechar as nossas apresentações da manhã de hoje, cujo tema principal é inovação e novas redes alimentares. Nós vamos inverter um pouco a ordem das apresentações. Vamos começar pelo professor Pierluigi, que vai nos falar sobre inovação e multifuncionalidade. Damos sequência com a apresentação da professora Flaminia sobre ação coletiva, inovação, gestão ambiental e cadeias de valor. E aí terminamos com a apresentação da professora Flávia, falando sobre inovação na agricultura. Vamos pedir a compreensão de vocês, porque os 2 professores italianos vão falar em inglês, e a gente fica à disposição, caso seja necessária qualquer apoio aí na tradução, né? Então, convido o professor Pierluigi para fazer parte da mesa, a professora Flávia também, e logo já damos início à apresentação. Nós. This is necessary for transmitting.
Preciso de lapela?
Ok. Bene. Buongiorno a tutti. Buonasera. Good morning. I'm going to present some result of a research that we had in Italy on the innovators in rural area. I'm going to tell some stories about it. In the beginning, I will clarify some theoretical point on what meaning market and what should be an alternative to the conventional one. We changed a little bit the title. We refer to market autonomy and innovation because it's a combination that young farmers in Italy made to encounter, to create new markets. Theoretically speaking, market is just for students. It's a place for exchange. It's a place where producers and consumers will negotiate, will exchange things. From history, they exchange products. After that, they invent money, coin, real, euro. So now you have consumers that pay for have products and services.
We will change the cable.
Yeah. Okay. But theoretically, markets have two extremes. You refer to market as a spot market when the place more near with the spot market is a souk in Marrakesh, where people walking and have a bargaining, negotiate and change products. In the other extreme, you have the integration. These things, it's very common in the industry because market is not only, we refer with the food, the consumers that go to the market and have fresh food, but it's not only that. You can imagine the input that agriculture needs to produce food. So it's kind of market there. But most of the time, for some products, the big company create a sort of vertical integration. They absorb market internally. They start to produce what they need. This is the second extreme. When we refer with the conventional approach, neoclassical way, on modernization, they focus on this extreme very much. For them, is integration is spot market. In a spot market is a competition, and integration is a sort of demonstration of power. So they move from these two extremes, neglect all that's happened in the middle. But in the middle of these two extremes, it's a word. It's a word that can be a sort of compromise of different way to intend to see the market and to create the market. So we call, but we have this, remain with the students, we have this theoretical approach that we call neo-institutional approach, and we call this hybrid form, a kind of form that are not spot, are not in internal vertical integration, but are something different, something not in the same of two extremes. In this hybrid form, you have some forms that goes more near the extreme of market and more near the extreme of the vertical integration that we call a quasi-market, a quasi-organization. When I look to this, and I refer to what Sergio Snyder presented yesterday, I can say that in this space, we can find this structural hole that Professor Yandauer continually repeats. We create sometimes in the big infrastructure of modernization some hole. What is in the hole? Nobody knows. It's unclear. So we need to interpret what is inside. Don't be scared. We need to understand, because inside can be something promising. So at this hole could be an alternative. And inside of this hole can be a lot of young guys that reinvent the future. So the question is, as a scientist, we need to understand that the prediction, it's not anymore the good way. say the people what they need to do to have the economic process is not anymore the way. Help the people to be entrepreneurs, to be farmers, to do better, to create following their idea, maybe could be the alternative. And after that, if you need more clarification on this, we have a question later. I'm directly jump to what we present 2-3 years ago here, a concept of nested market. It's a kind of, when you refer to the structural hole inside modernization, you can refer as a new Big Bang, as a new a new flourishing space for people where no barrier are, where it's the opportunity to do in their way. And we refer this, economically speaking, as a reform, sociologically speaking, as this concept of structural role, and the cover we refer as a nested market. Nested market is something that starts to be promising. It's an alternative that can become a new, probably, regime following the trajectory of path regime, technological regime structure. I think that the best way to understand is telling a story. This is what's happened now in the last 5 years in Italy. We had this research from the south to the north on young farmers for 3 years. And we discovered a lot of interesting things, a lot of promising things created by young guys. Some of them very linked with agriculture, others completely out. Young that decide suddenly to start the agricultural activities, but not in conventional way. I start with the first story that relates to a young guy that lives in Mantova. Mantova is located in the north of Italy. It's located in a very agricultural area. It is located in a very in the agricultural area, very intensified, very specialized. They used to produce only one monoculture. Normally, they have a lot of cereals because it's an area where cattle and milk production is very strong. It's the area of Parmigiano Reggiano. So farms are not very big, but very intensive. A lot of maize, some rice, and a lot of horticulture. They produce melon, they produce zucca. Flaminia, zucca com'è? Pumpkin. Pumpkin. Okay, thank you. The guy, 18 years old, talk with the father and have this, what do we call, the Regeneration Farm, no? So in the program, I take the place of my father, I continue. The problem was that the father was not so old. So he started to work in the same farm with the father, immediately it was a fight. Because he would like to change and the father not. He would like to go with different culture, and the father said, no way, we remain on the mainstream. We produce 30 hectares of pumpkin, we go to the trade maker, we sell them, and that's it, no any more problems. After 6 months, the son Marco, decide, okay, I'm leaving. You remain with your idea, I'm going to do different. Only one agreement. If I need some pumpkin, I am allowed to go to the farm, take the pumpkin, and do it my way. After 1 month, he opened the first place in the farmers market in center of Mantua. After the second month, he became one of the central guy without farm that selling pumpkin in that market. 3 times price respect to the father. After that, he start to create with consumer a sort of alliance. The old women arrived and asking him, but look, why you have only pumpkin? Why you don't have a aubergine? Why you don't have melon? Why you don't have? Asking him, and he is young. He doesn't know the answer no. He only knows, don't worry, I will. Yes, I'm doing. He started to collaborate with other farms, finding new products. In 1 year, he monopolized the farmers market there. The father is a clever guy, understood, because become to see the money, and say, oh, if you like, you can change. He returns to the farm, change completely the structure, reorganize the 30 hectares, start to produce different products, increment the relation of farms with other farms, open a new shop in the center of Mantova with fresh, and in a certain moment decide, but it's not enough. I need to do something more, and start to cook the product. In another 1 year, he asked the money to the bank to open a laboratory for a catering service. So he implemented the catering services, and immediately opened a space for his sister to join the activities, because the sister become the responsible of the catering and start to prepare and to do service for the big company of moda, of stylists, that open a new shop in Mantova. And he prepared all the entertainment in the beginning when you need to open the shop. So in 3 years, 30 hectares that have monoculture, specialized, high machinery, in 3 years completely changed. Multi-product, multi-service, and a high level of occupation, high opportunity of labor, all young, because in the laboratory are all young, in the shop all young, all friends. High level of relation between farmers. Normally in a specialized, another characteristic of modernization is isolation. Farmers cannot speak each other. It's only one contact between the seller and the farm. They cannot share no information. Now they create a new network. With this new network, the 3 things are very important. The first one, who's going to decide what and when to produce? Marco. But who's going to co-participate on this decision? Consumers. So it's not anymore important, as in the past. You need to increment your productivity. You need to change variety to be better. It's not anymore important. Consumers tell in the shop, this quality of aubergine is nice, this is not. This pumpkin is nice, this is not. We need different kind, because we need a pumpkin from January to August, not only in May. And after that, we have this fridge system, a cold system that take the products in a year. No? You take the apple now, is an apple produced 1 year ago in Italy. So with this system, they reorganize completely the farm in a strictly relation with consumers in one side, and a strictly relation in consumers with other farms in the other sides, in an area that is very specialized. It's one of the most rich area in agricultural terms in Italy. So this is done with a guy that now is 24 years old, without any knowledge on agriculture. Yeah? We come back to this question when we talk about the knowledge system. Here is another story, another young guy in the top of the mountain in Appennino, in Emilia-Romagna. It's more than 1,000 meters high, in a very marginal area. Is what we consider not agricultural area there. In the last 10 years, all farms decreased, the number of farmers decreased. We have a characteristic in Italy that all the country is very well urbanized. We have very small villages, but everywhere. You find the villages in Italy at 2,000 meters high, where nothing, just 3-4 hours, some people that live there. But this is very expressed. We have more than 8,000 small municipalities in Italy. In the country, it's not very big. Germany is 3 times Italy, and they have less municipality than Italy. So in this mountain, it's a very small town that saw in the last 10 years a big decrease in inhabitants. In this situation, with agricultural crisis, depopulation, climate change, all the disaster, earthquake, everything's happened there. A young guy decided to start again, to restart the old farm of the grandfather that was completely abandoned. Only 10 hectares in the top of the mountain. He just say, but it's a passion. I want to do. 20 years old. No knowledge in agriculture, nothing, only a degree, the secondary school. And he start to think, but how to restart the farm? It's impossible. I cannot compete in a cereals terms in price. I cannot compete with milk, with livestock. What I can do? And he said, I can start with the old variety, potatoes and cereals. And he started to cultivate few hectares with potato and cereals. And after that, decide to sell this directly in the valley. And after that, decided to process this product and create a flour with cereals. In 3 years, he recreated a strong network that 2 years ago became one of the events that he organized in the top of the mountain as a sort of this event as organic products and these things, become one of the events more participate in Italy. More than 50,000 people went there to follow the event. He asked all the artisans that closed up the shop to reopen the shop and to work with him. He recreated a big interconnection with a guy that work iron, that process cereals. He recreated a big district there. If you go there now, you feel that life starts again. You feel a movement, you feel a dynamic. And this cannot be seen as a kind of a marginal expression. It's an evidence. We need to take this into account. It's an evidence. It's in a capacity of young people to reinterpret their future. We cannot neglect this. We cannot just say, no, but it's a bullshit. It's not scientifically. It's just the generation. It's not like that. It's something that demonstrates that it's possible to do different. But the product of this young farm, the name is Francesco, arrive in the big shop now, very specialized in Milano. This product arrived in London because he used Instagram and put the flower in Instagram, just a picture. And the woman that is a family woman that all days like to make a cake in London and see the picture and just with 2-3 touch, because they know, they have a lot of time to understanding the new technology. It's not true that new technology is for young. The new technology is for the people that like to use. The new technology, to express the power, need to be used. If you say, no, I'm not able, you don't need to use. But when you need, because you don't have a time to go out to buy a product, to select, you don't have a time to search the good product. We always forget that one of the power of the big distribution is simplify, save your time. Because you don't have a time. You go in the supermarket and they think for you. They say, oh, this is organic, this is the best, but you don't know nothing. But with this technology, things change. Because with a click, you go directly in a farm. And when you see a young face, honest face, that tell the story and show the product, and you try, one time you try, and the product is quality product, is very nice. After that, you establish a strong relation. And it's more close than the people that live nearby your farm. It's a more close relation. So with this relation is today more than 50% of flowers, 3 times price on normal one. And the cost of transport is another question, a completely different than 10 years ago. Because you have a lot of people now that have this service very easy, that take your product in a small packet and take this product far away for very cheap cost. Which commonalities? I'm like to tell this story from the eyes of farmers. So I like to create or to show what they are, because this is important. When we talk about model theory, about technological infrastructure, about transition, about all things, sometimes we forget the central actor. The central actor are the people that are doing the things there. And you need to take this into account when you going to design some things in terms of policy or institutional tools or infrastructure. You cannot invest in infrastructure if you don't know people that are living there. It's just in your dream that if you make a big infrastructure, just magically people flow there as a new habitat. It's not true. So first thing is understanding people that are doing things there. This is important. If it's a people there, sometimes it's not people anymore. You have a lot of area completely abandoned. So there, it's completely another question. So the commonalities that we found, we have more than 20 young farmers. That was just the first round that we had in this research, and we found 20 cases similar. So it's not only 2. I tell the story of 2 for time, but we have other question, other case there. And the commonalities are, at first is an intuition. It's a kind of, when you are young, what do you want? It's the normal answer, no? When they ask the adult to the child, what do you like to do in the future? What do you want to be? This is the first intuition. Normally, this intuition, it's covered with this strong system or knowledge system that in front of a young intuition say, bah, I don't know if it works. Probably not. In that moment, the young is the bad way to relate with the young guy. Because when you say, but I don't know if it works, you stop the dream of the young. And he starts to say, bah, yeah, it's a bullshit, change. So first things is intuition. How to support the young intuition. Second is an unconsciousness and stubbornness. If you ask me to be a new entrepreneur, I start to think, how to be a good entrepreneur. It's the first elements that determine the insuccess of an entrepreneur. Thinking. It's not a good way. Entrepreneurs is a guy that don't think. This is the unconsciousness. And when you are young, you are unconsciousness. You don't have this preconceptual attitude. You're just doing things, and it's easier when you ask a young and say, but when you start, why you start? They say, I don't know, I just start. I lie. Stubbornness is that when they are convinced to do things, they go and they do things. It's nothing, no barrier. They want to achieve, and they fight for these things. Ability to test and introduce changes. Normally in a policy, we support young. We give the money, and normally the institution thinks, but I did my job. I give the money. It's not true. When you support young, you need to support for a long time, because it's a new things that them are doing. A new things means a continuous experimentation, not one shot. They try again, and after that they try. A lot of unsuccess. When you see refer with a picture of technological transition, you see a lot of arrow. These are the means of this kind of arrow that moving like this means the unsuccess. Only few right. So you try a lot of direction. You don't know, but in this time you need help. Family, it's important. The structure of family help a lot. Passion and pride. Strong belief that its activity will evolve in the future. Ability to make relation, confidence with these new ICT tools. And believe the way that they use ICT show perfectly how important is this era, how ICT changed completely the technological paradigm. When you see them, you completely understand why. With the ICT, they recreate a new market relation. 10 years ago, it was impossible to only think on this. Them demonstrate that they create a new proximity between farmers and consumers only with a click, only with a photo. It's a reality. It's not a lot of, and after that Flaminia will show some, a lot of farmers start to use, not in an individual way, but as a cooperative, and they move a lot of quantity of products, and not anymore a marginal or isolated case. Which evidence important, because we refer with this young one of the things that they recreate is a sort of autonomy. They re-internalize the power of many exchange in the farm, in their ability. They govern their choice. So seed and soil fertility reproduction, the first things they demonstrate that you can restart with old variety, but when you restart with old variety, you are the owner of your seeds. This is important. Second, more sustainable process. All these kind of farms use or follow the organic trajectory. Diversified products, not only one, multiply. Technology more sustainable for family farm and low environmental impact. New markets. New relation of farm network, farm and consumer network, reappropriation the power. They are very young, but are very powerful in the agri-food system. Someone say, but which agri-food system? The answer is, but where is, who read that can be only one agri-food system? We can have a lot. They have their own agri-food system. Creation and development in a cycle, reinventing farming practices. This is important. The way that they produce products completely different. The way that they decide which products are completely different. New and multiply use of farm resources, land, labor, knowledge are not anymore oriented to production, to agricultural production, but are used also for market relation. One of the problems of dominant regime is that farmers have only one role, produce. Now they can think also on relation, on market, on services. They need to talk with the people. They need to change their ability. New and different products and services. And this, you see also yesterday, is a way that they recreate. These are new networks. Each of cycle is a farmer's, but in each cycle you have a lot of relations. It's not anymore one direction. Each farm is a synonym of a lot of relation between different actors, not only direct related with your activities. It can be actors that just work in ONG, that are interested in your way to produce and not your own product. It can be actors that tourists, that are completely far away from you. From this step forward, and we want to conclude, we need to rethink the model. The way that policy goes to support agricultural sector need to be redesigned completely. The way that extensionists and the way that research system work in interpreting and supporting agricultural and rural development sector are completely need to be redesigned. It's not anymore a time to say just Asia, we have the problem of fame in the world. We need a lot of production. It's not true. We need a more sustainable system. It's another concept. It's another way to intend the world. Means that people everywhere need to have a good quality of life. And we can do this only if we give opportunity to all actors to design, to invent their future, not to follow the prediction line. And at the end, some suggestions, but we can continue later with the questions. New research, these are some suggestions in terms of research and policies. In terms of research, economic, social, and environmental effects of peasant innovation. Sometimes we have this confusion of farmers, peasant. All of these we organize in a conceptual model of peasant agriculture, but refer to peasant agriculture as a peasant of the third millennium, not an old style. Is a kind of concept for the future. New networks and their effect on the relation between context and peasant, present a role of interfaces in supporting or contrasting peasant activities and models. And here we can refer also with what yesterday Alison told about intermediary. People that, infrastructure that, service that, a lot of things can help this relation between different actors. But remember, everywhere, we cannot say that all can be the same or follow the same line. We can have interfaces that follow the same objective, but are completely different way to negotiate each other. The result could be different. So we need to give them the free space to understanding what should be the good and the right path. In policy, it's an obligation for institutions start to change mind when they design policy. It's an obligation for institutions believe in the inhabitants, in the people. It's an obligation for institutions give the opportunity for young people to follow the idea, to follow the capacity to create novelties with the idea. It's an obligation of institutions to trust the capability of farmers. Farmers are not people that follow the order. Farmers are not less clever than scientists that arrive there and give the receipt. Farms are not less clever than extensionists that goes there to offer their service. Consciousness of the existence of local resource is an obligation for institutions. Start from this point. They need to understand how richness is the resource that they're going to govern with the policy. And they need to save in a time to maintaining the reproducibility, the attitude to reproduce. Collective management of local resource become a must. We need to go with this new approach that must be collective, not means an old concept of cooperative, but in the new concept. Presence of infrastructure that channels local goods and services to new emerging markets. Institutions must believe in infrastructure, not just say, no, my ICT, yes, well, ICT, but at the end, well, we need to bargaining directly, but I don't know who knows if it works, if not works. No, it's a new opportunity. You need to invest, you need to trust, but you need also to take into account that this infrastructure needs a lot of people that work behind. Internet is not a phenomenon that go along. Need the people behind. Without the people, it's not an advantage using internet. The strong part of these young farmers is that they spend the time in internet selling a product. They are behind. At the end, policy intervention must be place-specific as the result of collective negotiated action between public and private. We talk a lot, and I conclude, we talk a lot this bottom-up approach, this partnership between public and private. But the result is always the same, that at the end, institutions decide what they like. It can be the contrary. if you have a partnership, you need, when you design a policy and the instruments, you need to take into account what's happening in the negotiation, what people ask you. If you have a lot of private people that ask investment in one side, you cannot neglect this and say, no, it's not important, I go on this side because it's much powerful. You need to trust the people. Otherwise, the partnership, it's no sense. Thank you for the attention, and I'm there for the question.
Good morning. Thank you very much to the organizer. And well, you yesterday and this morning you had a lot of examples of what is going on as a transition from what was the paradigm of modernity to this new paradigm of sustainable agriculture and sustainable food system. And what my role should be to give you some information about the role of the policy. Of course, policy could be very important in this transition, not only for the financial support. We always think in Europe that the main part of the policies is to provide financial support to the enterprises farm. But yesterday we had a very nice presentation by Alison about the intermediation. And so policy is one of these instruments of intermediation. And what is happening now in Europe, that also our politicians and let's say what we call Euro bureaucrats, they have understood that there is the need of a transition also in the rural development policy. The nice thing is that this transition is going on, but it's not so well defined at the moment. But what we have to say that in the new programming period, that means from 2014 to 2020, in 7 years, we have this new programming period, so these new policies for rural development areas. And the new policies is based mainly on innovation. But what kind of innovation? An innovation from bottom up, and we call it participate innovation. So we speak about the partnership for the innovation. That is one of the new tools of European policies. The collective action, that means that there is the awareness that it's not possible to make a changement, a transition, if there is not a collective action. Well, you can, and I'll give you some example about a pilot project, but what I think we have to discuss how to pass from the pilot, and we had a lot of examples of pilot of nice and best practices yesterday and today, but the problem is how can we pass from the pilot from a single to a new paradigm. So that means to this transition we want, and one of the goals of the new policies is to strengthen the link between farmers and the market. So sometimes farmers, yesterday was presented the book on short chains, direct selling. Yes, that is going on in all the world. The fact is there is these new linkages, but how can these new linkages become a new alternatives to the let's say the leading food distribution system? That means how it is possible to have big flows of foods of agricultural product through this direct chain. And well, the nice things in our new program, in new policy, is that we have regulation with, I think, more than 20 measures, but the only really new measure is this measure that is called cooperation. It's something completely new, and it's something that the European Union is going to experiment in this period. And it is very interesting. I want to present it to you because the first thing is that it's not focused aimed to single beneficiaries, but to support cooperation, a cooperative approach. And cooperation means that there are at least two actors, and one of these actors has to be the farmers, but the other could be anybody that is interested in rural development. That means, for example, NGO. That means municipality. Well, and that's the first innovation. Now, we have cooperation, but we have cooperation that is an open one. Not only, for example, in the food chain, that was the modernization approach, the filière. And the second is, this measure is supporting the creation of cluster networks and is supporting the innovation through the support to operational group of the European Innovation Partnership, again, partnership. And that is a new tool that not only for agriculture and food sector, but not only for this. We have a European Innovation Partnership also for water management. That is one of the other big goals of the millennium, and also for the health and health of people. And what can be done with cooperation, with this cooperation measure? Well, the support shall relate to pilot projects, as I said, but also the development of new product, practices, processes, technologies, food and forestry sector. So all technical, technological, organizational innovation, cooperation in organizing joint work, process and sharing facilities of resource. That means also in not only mainly in marketing, but also in tourism and rural tourism. Cooperation and horizontal and vertical cooperation in the supply chain, also to establish local market, promotion activities, action undertaken with a view to mitigating or adapting climate change, joint approaches to environmental projects, cooperation for the sustainable provision of biomass, and also at the end, also for community support of care farm and so on. So if we look here at the main goals of the rural development priorities and the focus area, you can see that through the cooperation measure, so you can cover all the focus area. That means that it should be possible to use only one measure for all the new European rural development policies. The fact is that it's so new that now the problem is how to implement these measures. And this is the problem I want to discuss with you. And of course, we have 27 countries, maybe now less, in Europe because of the Brexit. So it should be 23, and in this 23, and in Italy we have 21 regions, and each region is implementing this measure in a different way. But that's not bad, because it's, as I say, it's an experimental measure in itself, and the Commission is looking at it. That's why also we are, as a researcher, we are looking at the way as this measure, the potentiality of this measure and the implementation for the future program period. But what are the keywords in this development? So, constructing heterogeneity. Heterogeneity is now recognized as a value, not as as a constraint. So what is important is to reproduce heterogeneity, not only heterogeneity of natural resources, but also the heterogeneity of farming system, of communities, of cultural heritage, and so on. And that's why the bottom-up, that's is explaining why this new approach to innovation and collective action, local innovation, in which the methodology is defining goals and experimenting new solutions, and the strengthening of entrepreneurship in rural areas. This is another important point. There is no vitality, there are a lot of studies about the importance of social capital in rural areas for local development. The fact is that there is no social capital if there is no human capital, but that means demographic stratification, and that means that there should also be entrepreneurship. And that goes back to what Pierluigi explained about the importance of young farmers in rural areas, because they have this new culture of entrepreneurship. They are more, motivated in a way. So the first is partnership for innovation. What is this tool? Why is it important? Well, measure of cooperation in the European Partnership for Innovation. This is why we want partnership. This is a speech from President Wilson. I not only use all the brains that I have, but I want to borrow what I can borrow. And so how to use all these brains. I mean, there is a lot of brains in rural areas, but of course there are a lot of brains in other sectors, in the urban areas at international level. So the idea is to create this partnership, and now it's possible. Yesterday, Alison spoke about this innovation platform. That means that it's possible to have interaction at international level through these new ICT communities. The European is an interactive innovation model. That's the first innovation point. In the past, we had the scientific, what we call the scientific production of knowledge, and then the advisory system and the farmer. That was very linear. And that was the main, the scientific system responded mainly to policy at high level, not at local level. So now we have a more interactive and multi-level system. And this system is based on what the European Union calls operational groups. The interactive model is based on knowledge exchange, and the focus is to put in practice as soon as possible the innovation. So we don't need any more innovation that remain in the research center or to remain only in certain industries. we need in the rural areas to change, to try to experiment innovation. That means that you can also have negative results. But that's part of the game. That's part of the game. So, and the last is to stimulate innovation from all sides. That means also mainly from the people, from the entrepreneurs who have to use this innovation, and this means that the transition towards the good practices, because this innovation should be focused on sustainability, should be more rapid. This is the idea. So I go very, the program is linked to the new research program in Europe Horizon 2020, and there is a platform that is Agri-Ape that put in connection the operational group. But what is an operational group? Now, an operational group should have farmers inside. This is only the only main rules, and so the other could be other agribusiness, NGO, advisor, researchers. It's not important, but the important things, it's not a stakeholder networks, it's not a discussion group, it's an operative, so very operative, working. This is how to build an operational group. So identify your idea of problem. And you see this is from the European Union, and the person who has to identify, in this case, is a shepherd. That's something important. And design the process to test the idea or solve the problem. So I have a problem. How can I have many times farmers have an idea of how to solve, but they have no money, and the other fact is, if this, who can tell if this idea is going to work or not? So the idea in an operational group is the idea, and also the solution could come from the farmers, and the research institute has a role of scientification. They say this solution is more sustainable than another one, than the previous practices, and so on. So you say the role of a research institution is changing a lot in this operational group. And there is another important actor that is an intermediate, let's say an intermediate we call the innovation brokers. The innovation brokers could be an agency, could be an expert, could be a professional who can create, who can find the other partners, because the problem is that all these different partners in the operational group, sometimes the problem is they speak very, very different languages. So what we need is really a cultural brokers, somebody, and that's one of the problems we are having in this moment, especially in Italy, because who are these? What can we find? From what kind of university or faculty? We have very specialized. Yes, we have multidisciplinary approach, but at this moment we don't have this innovation broker as a profile, as a professional profile. And then find the funding. And the funding could be found in the Rural Development Plan, could be found in other measures for financing for the structural European fund, of the national fund, of at international level. Why not? And then, of course, this operational group, they are using public funds, so the results should be public and should be disseminated, and in this the role of the APE contact point and the rural development networks that we have at national level. So something, a completely new approach. From let's say the theoretical framework is that for this approach is that there is there are two main elements of interaction to have innovation: the virtual opportunities and the real opportunities. And why the entrepreneur? Because it's the entrepreneur that can transform the virtual opportunity that he can read in, let's say, read in the market, or of course he can be helped to read in the market, but usually entrepreneurs, as Pierluigi told, are very curious. They like to well, especially farmers, when they go on vacation, they don't go on vacation but they, first thing, they go to other farmers in other countries and ask what are you doing, and also other activities, and they translate then in their activities, so the curiosity. So that's why the entrepreneurs, the farmers as the main actor. So what we need for the transition, I have anticipated. We need to create conditions and tools for the creation of ideas. Where the ideas come from? Sometimes the ideas come from problems, from new rules, from restriction. And that's very common in agriculture, because we have new safety rules, for example. We have continuously new rules on the use of for example, chemical, pesticide. And new, of course, we have new also demand from the consumers. This sustainability is an increasing demand from the civil society. And so the idea comes from what? From what we call resistenza contadina. The fact that I want to continue to be an entrepreneur, I want to continue to be a farmer, so I have to find a solution to go on. And of course, the increase of the self-esteem. It's important that, that there is this evaluation of the entrepreneurs. In the modernization system, the distance of the farmers from the market, and also the food system, the technological, let's say institutional system that used to give receipt to the farmer means, and also our common agricultural policies that give money to not farming, is something that has reduced the entrepreneurship, the self-esteem of the farmer. Now that's also all this research about best practices, the dissemination of case studies. I think it's a very important thing, and also to have farmers and entrepreneurs in university, for example, is another good practice, and contributing to the evaluation of the response. That's the new role, as I said, of the research institution, and it's not so easy. I mean, because in this case, the researcher should be part of the research, but should act using his tools to scientify what is the innovation. So just to make an evaluation, not to make all the methodology of the innovation and innovation transfer, but to say, yes, we can make a comparison, we have this kind of index, and why these indexes are important is important because when you speak at policy level, for example, with Brussels, they ask for indexes. They want to know what the results are, but they don't want some written reports, but say, I need some indexes to compare. What is more sustainable means that they use less water and they have a high quality of product. Okay, this is an index. And of course, this is part of the role of the research. So 10. Okay, so I go very, very fast on the other. Collective action for sustainable natural and agricultural practices. And this is, of course, linked. Why collective? And go back to heterogeneity. Collective because, well, of course, if you have an environmental problem, if you want to produce public goods, there is a break-even point. If there are the farmers are so few, there is no meaning. But then if you have over the break-even point, you can have exponential results. So that's why the action should be collective. And because create, and also, of course, for the transition from the pilot to the new paradigm, you need to have sharing of the new culture, of the new result. And why participatory? Because even in a limited area, there is a great diversity. So especially in the environmental management, so the environmental management measures should be managed at local level, should be decided at local level, because it's not so easy. There is so many heterogeneity from a territorial area to another, that there is the need of something very specific. And this is, there is not only measure, one measure, but there are some other measures. And this collective approach and participatory comes from the history of environmental cooperative in Netherlands that have 25 years of history. And this is one pilot project we made in Italy, in the south of Italy. And you see, it was a very little area, but with hilly and plain, with orchard, very intensive, and so eutrophication, and then also mountain areas. And the idea was to, for each of these areas, there were some environmental objectives, and we discussed with the farmers what could be the results. And for each area, the farmers find a result. What we are trying to do now is to to make research about the improvement of sustainability of the objective with this farmer solution. And what was the methodology? What was very important was the animation in each area. And so we make some public meeting, and this was very important. The role of the municipality, il sindaco, was very important, because, and another very important item was the discussion with the farmers and the community of the cost of this environmental problem. There were, especially for the erosion, there were big costs. So in this case, the farmers could understand that the measure that to change their behavior, to have more sustainable practices, means also a better income for them, and also a better income and a less cost for the community. But at the end, they were part of the community. And that means the quantification of the result, the quantification of what could be also in economic terms is very important in collective action. What is important from the transition from the pilot to the mainstream? The very important thing is the quality of the people that are working in the pilot. So we try to choose what they were recognized as leaders farmers. And of course, the other aspect is the scientification, so the participation to the group, to the project of people coming from another region. we were coming from Umbria, that is in the middle of Italy, not in the south, and from the university. So what's the key factor? The market recognition, the communication, what I, of course, there were a financial support from the region, but this support could not last for ever. And so what is important also to communicate this more sustainable practice to the market and try to make, to transform in territorial marketing. And the cost of the collective action is another key issue. It's very important to have to try to decrease transaction costs. That means the cost to inform and to control this, the farmers, and the evaluation, the monitoring of the project himself. So the last is the intra-sectorial partnership focus on farmers to offer local and global markets. And as we know, there are a lot of formal and informal networks now. These are most successfully respect the traditional cooperative because of the fact that the participants could maintain their entrepreneurship, and they are very heterogeneous. I have a case studies, but I have no time, but this is a nice case studies about not only farmers, but entrepreneurs from the Sicily. You know, in Sicily, there is this, the problem in all the south of Italy of illegal wars. So their idea was to make a network of enterprise based mainly on organic production and legal practices. And the key factor, the successful factor, was the development of a logistic model through which they export in this moment orange and other products from Sicily in all Europe, in Germany, in Belgium, and they export them in this cube. This is the idea, one cube. You can put every what you want in the cube, and then they have they use the logistic that use the modern, the main distribution system. So they have an hub in half of Italy, and from them to Frankfurt, to Brussels, to Riga, and in Polonia, and they deliver. They have some franchisee in the local farmers market, and then they also use the DHL, or this international logistic company, to deliver direct into the family. And you know, the price of the orange is €1 less than the price of the same products in the big supermarket in Frankfurt. And what is the key success element? As I say, the maintaining and improvement of entrepreneurial capacity. There are also cooperatives in south of Italy, in Sicily, that are marketing oranges. But the fact is that the farmers who participate to this cooperative do not really maintain the entrepreneurship. And so they do not have the idea of the market. They have no idea of the new scenarios. They are continually inventing new idea, new solution, new communication tools. Of course, they use social and so on. I have finished. What are the challenges for the success of this new policy? We have the tools. We have also some pilot experience. The fact is that we have to change completely the cultural approach to the development, and especially to the innovation in development. A systemic and multidisciplinary, but also multi-actors approach the need of new actors, that means negotiators, animators, leaders, the need of infrastructures in rural areas, mainly broadband, that is lacking a lot, especially in Italy, until the use of new ICT, of course, and logistic tools that are developing very, very rapidly. If you think that Amazon or Google are going to distribute fresh products, so the idea is, why not the farmers? If they do it, that means that there are new solutions, new organizational solutions of logistics that are driven by these big groups. But farmers, the new sustainable food chains can use the same. Why not? And then, and this is the most difficult for the moment, a new administrative transformation. We need a transition for the actual bureaucracy to a new responsible administrative system that is most flexible. The problem that we still have in implementation of this measure and is not from the farmers of other actors, but of course from the regional and national administration. They are really frightened from the potential, but they are frightened also from the risk they can have using the actual administrative method to use public money. Thank you very much.